Hello, grade 11 students. In this video, we'll start our new chapter about genetics. So chromosomes, as we know, at metaphase, they are made up of two chromatids. As you know, the substance that makes up the chromosome is called the chromatin. That's divided into DNA. As we know, they're composed of nucleotides A, T, C, and G, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, and proteins composed of histones and non-histones. DNA by the process of transcription. So by transcription, it will give mRNA, while mRNA through the process of translation will give the amino acid sequence which correspond for the polypeptide or the protein. So DNA through transcription will give mRNA, sure, by the help of the enzymes helicase and RNA polymerase. We have mRNA through the process of translation will give the polypeptide or the amino acid sequence. What is a gene? A gene, as you know, is a fragment or a piece of DNA that will code for a specific trait. This is called the gene. What are the alleles? Alleles, they are different versions, or we can say they are different models of the same gene. Let's say about the blood group. In the blood group, we have three different alleles. We have the allele A, we have the allele B, and we have the allele O. Later, we will talk about dominant and recessive, what the meaning of dominant and what the meaning of recessive. So each one of these, for example, the eye color gene, it has different alleles. For example, black, brown, let's say brown allele, black allele, hazel allele, let's say blue allele or green allele. So the alleles, they are different versions or the different models, as he said, for the same gene. What the meaning of homozygous individual? Homozygous individual, or it has another word, it's called pure, where the individual, it has or it possesses two identical alleles were of the same gene. Let's take the example of the blood group. For example, the individual that has blood group A is said to be homozygous when this individual has two identical alleles. Both of them, they are A. Whereas blood group B, it can be B, both identical alleles. And blood group O, it can be OO, both of them, they are similar. So two identical alleles. So this individual is said to be homozygous or pure, related to the blood group gene. The meaning of heterozygous. Heterozygous, or it's called hybrid. What the meaning of hybrid? Where the individual, it has two different alleles for the same gene. For example, blood group A, it has AO. It has two different alleles, allele A and allele O. Or blood group BO, it has two different alleles, allele B and allele O. Or allele A and allele B for the blood group AB, where this group is AB. So this is the case of codominance. We will talk about this in the coming slides, so stay tuned. Here, let's talk about the dominant allele. Dominant allele is the allele that expresses itself either in the homozygous or the heterozygous cases. So I said that the dominant allele is the strong allele. It can be expressed when we have two strong, or it can be expressed when we have one strong and one weak. Recessive allele. What the meaning of recessive allele? I said that the recessive is the weak allele. The weak that cannot be expressed unless we have two weaks together. So they are in the case of homozygous. For example, if we want to talk about the blood groups, the dominant alleles, they are the A and B, while the recessive, it's O. So O cannot be expressed unless we have two alleles O. So we have OO. For example, if we have A and O, the blood group, it's A. Or we have A and A, so it's blood group A. So these cases, they are the dominant allele. It's expressed in the case of homozygous or expressed in the case of heterozygous. The same case for blood group B. It can be B or it can be O. Both of them, they give the blood group B. Here the case is homo, and here the case is heterozygous. So here, let's see, we have this factorial analysis showing that we have B capital is the brown dominant allele, and B small it's the recessive blue eye allele. So let's see first, if we have B from the father and B from the mother, for example, it will be BB. So BB will give brown. Or we have B small for the blue and B capital for the brown. So we have BB. So it is brown. Why? Brown because it's expressed in the both homozygous and expressed in this case is like the heterozygous where B capital and B small also they meet here. So all of them, they give what? They give brown. Why? Because the brown allele is the dominant one. So it's expressed in homozygous as shown here or in heterozygous as shown in this. So here both of them, here BB or B capital, B small, both of them they give the brown, since the brown allele is the dominant. So it can be expressed in both cases, homozygous or heterozygous. So the brown here, they represent 3/4 of the total population. Why? Or the, for example, the proportion. While 1/4 only represent the B small, which is the blue eye allele. So 1/4 represent the blue. So the recessive, it cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. And here is the case. The blue eye allele, it cannot be expressed unless we have two alleles that code for the blue eye color. So here, this is the case where the allele that is recessive, it cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. While this individual, we have B small and B small. So it's recessive, so it's expressed here. So it has blue eye color. So here it also confirms that the recessive allele, it cannot be expressed unless in the case of homozygous. So here we have B capital B small, it's a brown, and B capital B small, it's a brown. So half of the population or half of the proportion, it represent brown. So 50%, or we can say it's 1/2. Here 50% if I want to work with percentage, or 1/2 if I want to work with a proportion. Mostly this year we'll work with proportions. Okay, so this is 1/2, while here half of the proportion they represent the blue. So 1/2 they are blue eye color. So half of them they are black, brown, and half of them they are blue. Let's move to this case, codominance. Codominant allele. What is the codominant allele? The codominant alleles, they are alleles that are both of them they are expressed. I tell you that is the case of co-expression in a heterozygous individual. Imagine that we have an individual having blood group AB. One example is Mr. Muhammad. So Mr. Muhammad has blood group AB. I have blood group AB, so I have both alleles A and B, and both of them they are expressed. So A is dominant and B is dominant. So this is the case of codominance. So I have both alleles. For example, if I have allele A and allele B, the blood group of me, it's not, for example, blood group A, or it's not, for example, blood group B, since A and B they are dominant. So this is the case of codominance, where alleles they are both of them dominant and they are co-expressed. What the meaning of co-expressed? They are expressed together. So here, let's take the example about the fish. Here we have a red fish that's crossed with a blue one. So here the result is blue fish with red spots. So both of them, blue and red, they are expressed. So both colors, they are expressed here. So this is the case of codominance, where both of them, they are expressed. Here we have white and brown. They are crossed and they give white or red, let's say. So they give both colors, the white and the red, they are expressed, or the white and the brown, they are expressed. So this is the case of codominance. What the meaning of codominance? Both alleles are expressed. So both alleles are expressed. This is the case of codominance. So keep it in your mind. Codominance, when both alleles they are expressed. For example, we have, let's say, a black dog is crossed with a white dog. So the result will be, for example, white dog spotted with black spots. So this is the case also of codominance, where both allele they cooperate, they are co-expressed. Phenotype. What the meaning of a phenotype? Phenotype, it's always the sum of traits. So everything that we observe, it's called the phenotype. So sum of traits found in an individual is called phenotype. Whereas the genotype is the sum of alleles. For example, genotype, we said AB. Or for example, we said B small, G small, B capital, G small, or B capital, B small. These are the genotype. It's sum of alleles of individual. Always the genotype will code for the phenotype. For example, if we have AB, so AB, it's the genotype. Will code for then the phenotype. What do you have? Blood group AB. And here, the case in the question before, B capital, B small, brown and blue. This will code for phenotype. It's going to be brown, since the brown is dominant. Always, the dominant allele is expressed or is symbolized by capital letter, while the recessive allele symbolized with it's symbolized with small letter. So keep it in your mind whenever you have to give the symbol. So for example, the case of the brown and the blue, you have to say let B capital be the symbol of what? Not of the brown color, of the allele, coding for brown color, of the allele, coding for brown color. The same for recessive. Let B small be the symbol, not the symbol of the blue color, be the symbol of the allele. So you have to pay attention to this symbol of the allele, coding for the blue color. Okay, so here let B capital be the symbol of the allele, coding for the brown dominant allele. And here for the blue color, recessive allele. So pay attention to this. Then let's continue. Talk about the true breeding line. What the meaning of true breeding? True breeding is a line of individuals where the descendants always they have the same phenotype as the parent. For example, a black mouse is crossed with another black mouse. All the descendants they have the same phenotype as the parents. So this is called a true breeding line. Now, homogametic. Homo, it's only one. Gametic, only one type of gametes. So homogametic, it gives an individual that gives only one type of gametes. For example, the female ovum. Female ovum contains XX. So it gives only X, one type of gametes. Whereas heterogametic is the individual that gives more than one type of gametes. Example about this, the male. The male, it has X and Y. So it can give either X or Y. So it's called heterogametic. gametic. What the meaning of Hollandric gene? Hollandric gene is the gene that's carried by the Y chromosome. So the chromosome that's found on the Y is called the Hollandric gene. Bidominant or bi-recessive. Bidominant, it's an individual that have two dominant phenotypes. For example, I am dominant for the blood group. I have blood group A, and I'm recessive regarding the I'm dominant regarding the albinism. I'm normal, so I have the allele D. So both traits, they are different from each other, but both of them, they are dominant. So we said that this individual is bidominant for these traits. Bi-recessive individual has two recessive phenotypes. For example, blood group, I have blood group O, which is bi-recessive. Or I am albino, I have the allele A small. So these two, they are recessive. So having bi-recessive individual having two recessive phenotypes is said to be bi-recessive, whereas individual having two dominant phenotype is said to be bidominant. Dihomozygous. What the meaning of dihomozygous? Dihomozygous is the individual that is homozygous for both traits. What the meaning of this? For example, I have blood group A. So blood group A, to be homozygous for blood group A, should have the alleles A and A. Okay? Not AO. Even though AO is blood group A, but it's not homozygous, it's heterozygous. And for the eye color, I have, let's say, a brown eye color. Okay? So I have B capital, B small. So I'm homozygous for both traits, the blood group and the eye color. So this is, the person is said to be dihomozygous. While diheterozygous, what the meaning of diheterozygous? Diheterozygous, it means that the individual, it has two heterozygous for both traits, or two heterozygous traits. What the meaning of this? For example, let's see the same blood group. I have blood group also A. To be heterozygous, it's going to be AA? No. AB? No, since it's blood group AB. So it should be A and O. For the brown eye color, if it's heterozygous, it's going to be B capital, let's say, and let's say it's hazel, for example, B and H. So it's heterozygous for both traits. So it's said to be diheterozygous. An experiment was performed on mice here to locate the genetic information which determines the hereditary trait, the coat color, for example. We have a true breeding female mouse. What the meaning of true breeding? Meaning that all the offspring, they have the same color, and they are crossed with a male of the same genotype. And to grow another female, we have a true breeding gray female mouse crossed of the male of the same genotype. Then after the crossing, so we have from a true breeding black female mouse crossed with the male of the same genotype, what we did, an embryo of 16 cells is taken. Then the nucleus of one of these embryonic cells is extracted and is injected into a fertilized ovum that is taken from where? From a true breeding gray female mouse, which is crossed with the male of the same genotype. Then the two pronuclei, the female pronucleus and the male pronucleus, they are fused and they are extracted, where the obtained ovum is put in vitro culture for about 4 days. Then the obtained embryo is implanted in the uterine cavity of a true breeding white mouse. It's not fertilized, it's only for gestation. This is the foster mother. What was the result? The result was the birth of a black mouse. So after the implanting the embryo obtained after the injecting of the nucleus of the embryonic cell from a black mouse, which is crossed with a male of the same genotype, and then injecting it into the ovum of a pure female gray mouse crossed with a male of the same genotype, and implanting it in the uterus of the or in the uterine cavity of the white mouse through breeding female white mouse, not fertilized and ready for gestation. What was the result? The result was the birth of a black baby mouse. So, what was the indication here? This means that the black color of the baby mouse, it was coded by information inherited with the nucleus of the embryonic cell of the black, not the cytoplasm and the cell membrane of the ovum of the gray mouse, or either from the nutrition. So the one responsible for the genetic information is located in the nucleus. So the genetic information is located inside the nucleus. And here you have to know that dominant phenotype, maybe it's homozygous or heterozygous. Pay attention to this. And not always the phenotype will reveal the genotype, because the phenotype doesn't always reveal the genotype. Maybe it's homozygous or heterozygous. So you have to be careful about this. Note that if the descendants they have the same phenotype, so the line is true breeding. So always if the descendant they have the same phenotype as the parent, so the line is said to be true breeding line. Okay guys, thank you for watching this video. Bye bye.